My name is Hunter Collins. I would say I started coming 8th grade year. Friends Jordan Lightsey, James Graham both invited me. We were, doing football together, and they invited me to just come to Crossroads one night, and I did. I really enjoyed it. The first night was interesting, to say the least. Had never done a youth group before up to that point. Had always just been a Sunday churchgoer with my family, but we had quit going in those recent years. So going to church, I think that was the first time I'd been in church in like 2 years. So it was fun. Meeting Kenny was a great experience. Never met anybody just quite as charismatic. It wasn't long after that I had joined the praise team. I'd always been a musician. It's just something I had been into since I was a little kid, was music. Joined the praise team, that is, a few months into going. Played with Peyton, Reagan, Jordan, James, Chuck Lane occasionally when he was here. Played with those guys. It was fun. It was something I enjoyed, and it was a good way for me to grow spiritually, but I wasn't saved at that point. It wouldn't be until 2012 when I got saved. It was a summer trip to Tupelo, Mississippi for World Changers. It was night of prayer. It's a very powerful night. If you don't know what night of prayer is, it's a night where the service isn't so focused on a message as it is going quiet, praying about different things. You kind of start locally with your group, with your immediate area, and then you go to the local area, and then the state, and then it goes wider and wider around the world. But something had just got a hold of me that night. I'm not sure what it was, what sparked the thought, but I could just feel God really pulling at me. I'd felt the weight that my sin had caused. It felt like God was showing me how much pressure I put on His Son on the cross. And it was just a tremendous amount of weight that I couldn't possibly handle on my own. I cried out for God to just take me from this, just get rid of it. And then I felt just the best peace I've experienced in my entire life. Still nothing has topped it. It was like pulling that weight off and then being drenched in warm water. Now, it may sound uncomfortable, but there was something just calming about it, just peaceful, tranquil. And I really felt God just move through me and tell me it was going to be okay. In that moment, I knew that I wouldn't have to worry again. I had gone back to another World Changers in Birmingham, I believe it was. And at that World Changers, I had really seen a difference in how I was experiencing World Changers versus when I was unsaved to when I was saved. I saw the difference in what I was doing. It was about that time that I'd noticed something was different. I wasn't so strong emotionally anymore. I could just tell I wasn't as happy as I used to be. My enjoyment levels were low. I wasn't enjoying music or games, church, friends. Nothing was as enjoyable as it used to be. I started thinking, well, maybe this is just like a spiritual low for me. Because at that time in 2013, 2014, I had really been working close to God. Everything I was doing was for God, and it was a beautiful time in my life. The praise team was really, reaching its apex at 2014. It was a strong time in my life, but I noticed a dip. And then I realized about a month after that World Changers, that I had had depression. It wouldn't be long after that I would attempt to take my life for the first time. Nobody knew. My family didn't know, friends didn't know, nobody would know, except God, of course, that He knew what I was going through the entire time. But nobody had known that I was thinking the things I thought. In the beginning of my freshman year of college in 2015, that I would write a suicide note every day. With different reasons, whatever came to mind, with different people mentioned. But the core concept was the same, that it was my fault. I never told anybody that it was their fault in the letters. I never blamed anyone else. It was always me. Freshman year of college, I would attempt the second time to take my life. But this time was different. I felt in the moment that I was about to do it, God had put His hand on mine. It's kind of like this, kind of like I'd had my hand here, holding the weapon, and God had just put His on top. And I couldn't lift it any further than about waist high. Or chest high, excuse me. I just couldn't get it past that point. So I dropped the gun and I started crying just profusely. I didn't know what to do. Like, my whole life was in shambles at this point, and I wasn't happy. I smiled, I laughed in front of people, but I just never felt happy. I was constantly looking for ways out of social interaction, constantly looking for ways to withdraw. Nothing worked. There was always pain. There was always some form of just anguish that I was dealing with. So I went to my doctor and I told him I had depression. I wanted to get on medication. I wanted to fight this because if God put His hand on mine to stop me, then I needed to do something to work against it. Here recently, in December, I would reach the lowest point of my life that I'd ever reached. It's hard to describe what it's like to really know what rock bottom is. But every day was a struggle to wake up. I'd lost all feeling aside from anger and sadness. If I'm being completely honest, I had felt at points that God has turned His back on me because I was so hopeless. I don't remember the exact day right now, but mid-December, I went to my room at night. My father was actually in the house. He didn't know what was going on. I told my parents when I got the medication about my depression, but this particular night, everybody just thought everything was okay. Mom was out of town. Stephanie was with a friend. Dad was just in the living room watching TV. It had gotten so bad that I had started to feel the thoughts of suicide creeping again. So I texted a crisis line to help me. A worker named Sarah was connected to me through the service and started talking to me about what was going on, what I was feeling. And it put me off for about 2 hours. I talked to her for about 2 hours, just constantly texting back and forth about what was going on. But there at the end of the conversation, she'd noticed that I'd started to regress back into my depressed state. So she got in contact with the local police because she thought I was a danger to myself, which I was. Police officers arrived at my house shortly after a phone call I had from them. And, I heard my dad in the room wondering what was going on, why police officers showed up at my house at 10 o'clock at night. But an officer I knew walked in and took my gun from me, unloaded it, sat me down, and told me the first words of comfort I would hear in a while, that it wasn't worth it, and that I didn't need to do that. And this would start my process of going to a psychiatric ward. Mom would rush home. She was in tears. She didn't know what to do. Her son had just attempted suicide, and this is the first time she'd ever known that I would attempt suicide. And we talked in her room about getting help. And the EMTs said that I can go willingly or they'll take me to a ward. So I went willingly. I packed up some stuff and I went. The medications they assigned me would, in theory, help by slowing my thoughts down, kind of breaking that distorted reality and bringing me back to the real world and how it actually works. The medications are supposed to help me suppress my depression, keep it manageable. And the therapy that I now attend is to talk about what's going on and make sure the medicine's working and keeping me level-headed. As people had visited me, I felt cared about for the first time in a long time. And slowly, medicine started working. Slowly, I was building a relationship with God that I had lost. Slowly, I am getting better. Medicines have only just now stabilized 4 or 5 months later. Only just now really leveled out. But they're working. I'm able to bring myself out of the depressive episodes, bring myself out of these panic attacks, these scary situations. They're not as bad anymore. Not only because of the antidepressants, not only because of the therapy, but because of God and His ability to just pull you from the darkest places. There are people out there, I know, watching this. You may not want to say anything, and that's understandable. I was in your shoes. But if you don't take anything away from this, take this one thing, that you're not alone. If you want to talk to me, if you want to talk to Kenny, if you want to talk to any pastor at this church, any teacher at your school, your parents, whoever you feel most comfortable with, talk to them. Psalm 62 is an incredible passage. Truly my soul finds rest in God. My salvation comes from Him. Truly He is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will never be shaken. How long will you sought me? Would all of you throw me down? This leaning wall, this tottering fence. Yes, my soul finds rest in God. My hope comes from Him. Truly He is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress, and I will not. Psalms 118. Give thanks to the Lord, for He is good. His love endures forever. Let Israel say, His love endures forever. Let the house of Aaron say, His love endures forever. Let those who fear the Lord say, His love endures forever. I will not die, but live, and I will proclaim what the Lord has done. And that's my purpose with all of this. I'm going to live. I'm going to persevere, even through the depression. And I'm going to spread God's word. That's my job.